Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Political Insider. I'm Brett Smith, your humble host, the humblest of all hosts. Joining me today is President of Right Turn Strategies and frequent guest on Kennedy Nation and Waters World on FNC. Welcome back, Chris Barron.
Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. You have an awesome new op-ed today, which just dropped. It's titled, "We Don't Need a New Party. This is Our Party Now." Tell us about it.
Well, there's been all of this conversation over basically since the beginning of January about this idea that Trump and pro-Trump forces may start another party. And this is happening while every single poll that comes out makes it clear that 70 to 80% of the Republican Party is just 100% pure America First MAGA. That's it. And I started thinking, why are we having this conversation? Why are we debating whether or not we should start our own party? Maybe we should start acting like we're in charge of the party we currently have. We don't need our own party. What we need to do is take charge of the party that we control.
Absolutely. That brings me to my next question. Why is it important that MAGA and America First voters, the 75 million that showed up in November, stop acting like the minority party?
Because if we continue to act like we're not in charge, that's how we're going to get treated. If you want to know how does it that somebody like Liz Cheney ends up in leadership in the House, here's how. Because they think that we're not in charge. How does Mitch McConnell end up being the Senate majority leader? Well, here's how. Because they think we're not in charge. And the reason they think we're not in charge is because in the entire history of the Republican Party, the grassroots has only risen up one time, and that was to nominate Donald Trump. They think that this is an exception. They think that this is not the way that things are going to be going forward. And in their defense, it's never been like this before. We've always rolled over and taken it. I mean, we were the people who were supposed to go out and vote for George W. Bush and John McCain and Mitt Romney, and we were supposed to pretend we cared about Paul Ryan's budget blueprint, when frankly, none of us gave a shit about it, So part of it is on us. We're responsible for these people. We've let them walk all over us, and it's time for us to stop. They're not going to do it on their own. Look, the specter of Trump no longer exists in Washington to scare Republicans into doing the right thing. The only people who can protect the party now is us. It's the grassroots. It's the 75 to 80% of the party. This is our party. We need to start acting like it's ours.
Yeah, I'm tired of everyone kind of cowering and retreating into camps, especially considering the how big the tent is under Trump. 65 million in 2016, added another 10. Some people say could be 80. If you counted all the legal votes, but regardless,
and we had skyrocketing numbers among Latinos, among African Americans. You look at the 2016 versus 2020 maps, county by county. Look at South Florida. Look at the border counties in Texas. President Trump kicked ass in 2020 versus 2016. He was growing this party. And the dirty little secret in Washington is, of course, Mitch McConnell would like to be majority leader. Minority leader's not bad either. Kevin McCarthy would like to be Speaker of the House. Minority leader's not that bad. The revolving door between the Hill and K Street is way more lucrative and way more important than any single election. That's why they don't really, frankly, they don't care. I mean, the Trump coming along and getting people so fired up about actually changing the status quo was a complete anathema to them. None of them ever, all of the grand plans they ever baked up, none of them ever happened, think about all the Ryan budget blueprint crap that we were supposed to care about but didn't. How much of that stuff actually got implemented? Even when we controlled both nothing. Nothing.
The only thing Paul Ryan ever got was tax cuts, and Trump drug him kicking and screaming into the tax cuts. That's the only success that I can really point to that Paul Ryan can put his name on. But it's interesting because we have this MAGA America First party. What should be the contract for an America First party. I mean, to a large degree, I would imagine it would be largely kind of the pillars that Trump ran on
Yes,
in the last two elections.
It's got to be immigration.
Mhm.
We gotta close the border. We have to continue to remain vigilant in ending illegal immigration. We've got to stop getting our ass kicked in these trade deals. It's got to be fighting for fair trade deals all across the country. It's got to be ending this foreign adventurism. The Bush-McCain doctrine that got tens of thousands of brave, young men and women, Americans killed all over this globe for nothing has got to end. It's got to end. We got to start requiring our allies to start, paying their fair share and defending themselves. Like, look, the French and the Germans who spend all their time, they all snipe at us, they all complain about us. Well, then defend yourself. Pay your own bills. Stop looking for us to be the ones to come in and save you. And it's got to be standing up to big business and big tech. One of the things we've learned over the last 4 years is that big business is no friend of working class Americans. The country club republicanism of the past that relied on big business to grease the wheels, big business doesn't care about the working class. That's why they're all now firmly in the pocket of the Democratic Party. They don't care about what happens to the middle class. What they care about is they care about their profits. They care about their profit margins. Big tech doesn't care about free speech. It doesn't care about providing a platform for people to share information and interact with each other. What they care about is they care about controlling information, controlling the narrative. We need to have a contract for America First where politicians all across this country, not just folks running for federal office, people running for state legislature, running for governor, running for mayor, whatever it is, say, put their name. This is what I stand for. This is what I can be held accountable for. So the Liz Cheneys of the world, she can tell everybody, I'm not for that. I'm not for the contract with America First because I don't agree with you. Like the Mitch McConnells can say, I'm not for it because I'm not for what you stand for. And then we know we don't have to guess anymore.
Matt Gaetz or somebody should do a contract for America First, similar to what Gingrich did in the 90s. I thought that was brilliant because it outlined, just sort of like what Trump did, basic principles, basic pillars, probably 3 or 4 main ones that you can easily explain to people and share with your friends and your family. I would love to see something like that. And I think considering the party is such a big tent party and we have such enthusiasm behind these principles, it might be a good idea. And then it gives future candidates kind of a litmus test because, frankly, I'm not interested in voting for Republicans if they are not MAGA and America First.
What's the point?
Right.
What's the point? I mean, honestly, look, I said in my piece, the establishment wants you to say, let's let bygones be bygones, and we need to focus on taking back the House and the Senate in 2022. And my message for them is go screw yourself. No. Like, yes, taking back the House and the Senate is important, but not until we take our party back first. It makes no difference if we take the House and Senate back if Liz Cheney is in leadership in a Republican-controlled House. Well, what do we get out of that? Why should anyone go and vote for a Republican majority if Liz frickin' Cheney is going to be the one calling the shots? Who cares?
Also, we've also got Nikki Haley out today. And I just want to segue from one never Trumper into, I guess, a new never Trumper. Who knew that Trump giving Nikki Haley probably the biggest spotlight of her life in the UN, she would turn on him. But she turned on him today and said that we need to reject Trumpism. It was a mistake to trust him and to follow him. We need to walk away. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, gosh, with friends like these, friends like these Republicans, who needs enemies? Who needs Democrats?
Well, here's the truth. You said, well, like, who would have known? Well, Trump should have known. I mean, the number one problem for the Trump White House was staffing. It always was. And why was John Bolton ever even allowed within the security perimeter of the White House? Why did he even meet? Why did he endorse Mitt Romney when Romney was running? Why did he meet with Mitt Romney and consider him for Secretary of State? Why did he give Nikki Haley a gig? I mean, these people didn't support him. They of course, like, and by the way, all these people acting like what Nikki Haley did today is some profile in courage. It's the exact opposite of a profile in courage. It's the grossest, kind of most transactional, transparent kind of talking out of both sides of your mouth. This is exactly what we're sick of. I mean, I don't know what she thinks this gets her. Like, I mean, honestly, like I said before, maybe it's that they all think that, well, the base has always been our bitch before. We've been able to tell them what to do all the time. So they'll just go back to that. They'll never rise up again. But, we'll keep the peasants down. We'll tell them about the Ryan budget blueprint and they'll be for it. Like maybe that's what Nikki Haley's thinking. If so, she's got a very rude awakening coming because, as I've said many times, Trump let all the monkeys out of their cages in 2016, and like we're not going back in. It's not. It's never going to go back to the way it was. That party is dead. The party of George W. Bush and John McCain and Mitt Romney no longer exists. It's dead.
No, it's true. It's true. And frankly, if anybody needs to form a new third party, it's those people. Lindsey Graham and Nikki Haley. Lindsey Graham's out there shopping Nikki Haley to big donors because he thinks there's a future there with her. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, do these people not remember what happened a couple months ago when 75 million people turned out to vote for Trump and America First? And all of these people like Lindsey Graham were basically riding on those coattails. Lindsey Graham's on Hannity every night just begging for money. Please send me money. I'm broke, everybody. I can't fund my campaign. Ad nauseum every night. And Trump's out there fighting for him, and now he turns his back on him. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, you guys go form your own third party. Who needs you? Because they are separating themselves. Nikki Haley and Lindsey Graham, they are now separating themselves from 75 million people.
Well, and so the reason why we need a contract for America First is exactly because of the Lindsey Grahams of the world. Lindsey Graham thinks that what the base wants is they just want somebody who fights, and it doesn't really matter what they're fighting for. So he thinks that if he gives an over-the-top performance in the Kavanaugh hearings, or he goes and he rants and raves about getting to the bottom of things on Hannity, that the base is just going to be like, woo, yeah, that's all we want.
Stay tuned, everybody. Next week, we're going to get them all.
That's what they're missing out of this calculus. Yes, we want a fighter. Of course, Republicans were thrilled that Trump was going to fight. But it was what he was willing to fight for. We don't. Again, I hate to keep mentioning the Paul Ryan budget blueprint, but for a decade we were told this is what Republicans believed in, and the truth is, no rank and file Republican gave one crap about Paul Ryan's budget blueprint. Nobody cared about it. They weren't for anything that was in it. No one gave a crap.
We didn't want to do that. Didn't Romney have remember he had a 30-point plan for the economy back when he ran in 2004? I remember hearing that. I was like, 30 points? I was like, you're going to lose people after 5, dude.
It's like, look, the Chamber of Commerce has turned against the Republican Party, and big business has turned against the Republican Party because for the first time ever, the Republican Party has stopped being a servant of big business and the Chamber of Congress and actually started looking out for the best interests of the people who make up the Republican Party. I mean, the fact is that they don't win. No Republican wins a single election without working class voters. We are the backbone of this party. And the idea that for decades, these voters would be absolutely abused by their own leadership. I mean, I listened to Adam Kinzinger give his little spiel about how he's not worried about losing because he can look at himself in the mirror and feel good about his vote. I thought, that's your problem. You need to stop looking in the mirror and you need to start looking into the faces of the people who voted for you. Your job isn't to come here and we don't write a blank check and say, go do whatever you want to do. You're supposed to be our representatives in Washington, representing us. And the Adam Kinzingers of the world have given their own voters the finger. They treat them with absolute unbridled contempt.
Yeah. Yeah. We did a story on Kinzinger and Gates the other day, and I guess they got into it. And, Gates, Gates didn't back down. He was, he literally said, "Effing bring it." And I was just kind of like, that's the kind of fighting spirit that I'm looking for. Honestly.
Yeah, because he's willing to fight. Gates is willing to fight, but he's willing to fight for the stuff that we care about.
Yeah.
Unlike the Lindsey Grahams of the world who give us like the show fighting, I mean, like I don't need you to go on Hannity and yell and scream because you think that makes me feel better. What I actually want you to do is go hold people accountable. And that's what Matt Gaetz is doing. Is he's saying, look, Liz Cheney, you've got 10% of Republicans in Wyoming said that they would vote to reelect Liz Cheney. 10%. She is ignoring the will of 90% of her voters. And Republicans in Congress think that she should be the person who leads our caucus. Like, forget even talking about taking back majorities until we take back our own party. That has got to be a singular focus right now. We have got to take the reins back of our own party.
I think the Cheneys and the Haleys, I think, and the Ryans, I think they want to be permanent minority status because, frankly, it's far less work. I mean, it's easy to kind of kick back and just be this oppositional party and be against everything and, basically complain and, say if you don't vote for us, the world's going to end every 2 to 4 years. But one thing Trump showed us was it's hard to get things done. It takes work. It takes effort. It takes, sometimes moving mountains in order to, get action. And I love the fact that Trump got so much done, and he whet my appetite for more action as far as getting more stuff done, even if it's repealing regulations. And I think people want more of that. I think the party, I think the voters, I don't think they're ready to go back to business as usual with the fraternal order of Republicans, as Reagan used to call them, and just kind of kick back and be this loser party that just is oppositional and never wins. Because remember what Trump said? He said, we're going to win, win, win. We're going to win so much that you're going to say, no, President Trump, stop. We're winning too much. And I'm going to say, no, we're going to win more. That's what I want. And when I look at Gates, when I look at some of these other guys, very few of them, DeSantis, some of them are out there. They want to win too, man. And all of us want to win. And it just doesn't feel like we ever won under Romney, Nikki Haley, or any of these people.
They were fighting for stuff that you don't even care about.
And they're fighting for themselves. That's the other thing. I mean, I always felt that Trump was fighting for us because Trump already has everything in his personal life.
I mean, Nikki Haley and Lindsey Graham and Liz Cheney want to go back to a George W. Bush foreign policy. They want to waste American lives.
We can't go back to that.
Like it's some sort of stupid board game.
But we can't do that. We can't. The Clintons would love it to be the 90s again. But it's not. And Hillary learned that in 2016. It's not the 90s anymore. So I don't even think that this kind of Republican. I think it's kind of like an endangered species, basically.
It is. They have an oversized impact on the party. Right. Because we haven't done the job of holding them accountable yet. And frankly, there's too many on the right who even not even so much the never Trumpers, but the kind of like casual, like pro-Trump people who have like immediately like turned on Trump at the first opportune moment, who think that like this answer that somehow we need some sort of kinder, gentler Republican part, like that matters. Like that, that if we go back to being nice, then the Democrats will stop eating our lunch all the time. Like, no, that's what they want. Like they don't want us back.
This is like the end of Reaganism. This is the end of the 80s. You got Bush Sr. coming in, and he literally said, I'm going to usher in a kindler, gentler America. And Reagan, he replied back, and I don't know to whom, but he did say this. He said, kindler, gentler than what?
Right.
Or kindler and gentler than whom? I mean, what does that say about the last 8 years when you were VP under, I would say, the last greatest president of my lifetime, Ronald Reagan? You got Trump and Reagan basically who did not represent the establishment. They represented the people, and the people loved them for that, and they still do. I mean, they revere Reagan probably even more now than in the '80s when he was a total rock star. So
well, yeah, and what's so funny is how many of these establishment Republicans who claim to revere Reagan have completely ignored how much Trump is actually like Reagan.
yeah,
Like Washington despised Reagan. They thought he was this like blowhard B-rate movie actor. Who the hell was this guy? He's got no business being here. And they also thought like he's pretending to be a man of the people. He's this like super rich Hollywood dude pretending to be a man of the people. Like they just never understood it. They never understood his appeal to rank and file Republicans. But people always knew where Reagan stood. Republican, it was, these were some like fundamental foundational things that they like, this is what the party stands for. This is what Reagan stands for. And Reagan was a complete and total divorce from the Republicanism that had preceded him. The Republicans before wanted to play nice. They wanted to get along. Yeah. Reagan wanted to kick people's asses. Yeah. You know, like that.
And hold them accountable, just like the air traffic controllers. I have no doubt that if Trump was president today, he might be firing a bunch of teachers, you know, in order to open up schools. I think we'd have a very radical approach if Trump had been reelected.
Reagan primaried a sitting Republican president.
Right.
He primaried Gerald Ford, you know? Like he didn't care that this is the way things like he didn't care in the same way that Trump didn't care. And I'm not saying they're exactly the same person because they're not.
They're very different. Yeah. But
there a lot of that same energy is coming from the same place.
Yeah. And it's grassroots and it's completely and totally sincere. How much we love this man in this way. I think people loved Reagan for sure.
Well, and I think the mistake that people are making here is the idea that this is somehow like the cult of Trump. This isn't the cult of Trump. This was the first guy who actually stood up for us and said, you know, you don't have to eat the crap sandwich they're serving you. You know, we can do better than this. Like, if you want to secure the border, I'll go tell the Chamber of Commerce to kiss my ass. We'll secure the border. You know, like if you want to end these wars overseas, I'll bring the boys home. We don't have to do it the way that it's been done. And that's why people love Trump. It's because it's the first person who came along and validated, like, okay, this is what you believe. Then why aren't we doing this as a party? If the overwhelming majority of the Republican Party says we need to be securing the border, like this has got to be foundational to our party, why were we ever having presidents and Republican leaders who were talking about amnesty for tens of millions? Like, why was that even who was for that in the Republican Party? Like, if the overwhelming majority of Republican voters want to bring our boys and girls home from overseas, why were we ever having Republican presidents who were getting us even further entangled in endless wars that got us nothing? Like, why? Well, it's not the cult of Trump. It's not like we just love Trump because we just love Trump. No, we love that somebody came along and said, okay, is that what you want to do? Let's do it.
Right.
You know?
And it's like you said, I don't think there's any putting the monkeys back in the cage, putting the toothpaste back in the tube. There's no going back at this point. However, like I said, if Nikki Haley and Lindsey Graham and everybody, Romney, Ryan, that whole wing, Murkowski, if they want to go form their own third party, that's fine. We don't need them anymore. However, to end on a funny note, if they did form a third party, what should their name be?
The Loser Party.
The Loser Party. All right. In the comments section, I want all TPI. I want to see all TPI viewers give us their suggestions on what the third party for the Never Trumpers should be. Should it be like the Evan McMullin Party?
What was the club in Caddyshack?
It was Bushwood Country Club.
Bushwood Party.
There you go.
Because Trump was absolutely, he came along and said, "I'm going to buy Bushwood."
He was Rodney Dangerfield. He was Al Sherman.
Absolutely, 100%. Like they should be the Bushwood Party.
I agree. I think that's perfect. And Evan McMullin, McMuffin can be the CEO and president. So
I like it.
I think it's perfect. All right. Well, sadly, we're out of time. I want to thank Chris for joining me. Chris, give us your coordinates as to where people can find you online.
People can find me on Twitter at Chris R. Barron.
Awesome. And are you doing Kennedy or Waters World coming up anytime soon? I think you just did Kennedy.
Yeah, I did Kennedy last night.
Gotcha.
Basically every other week I'm doing Kennedy these days.
Awesome.
I love.
Awesome.
I don't even have to wear pants.
She's awesome, man. It's so crazy that we've been watching her since we were teenagers. I mean, I had the biggest crush on her. Just from the MTV days, 120 minutes, man. I mean, that's where it all started for me.
Well, the great thing about Kennedy is I don't always agree with Kennedy because she's definitely much more libertarian.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he is 100% fair about all this stuff. She has, you know what I mean? Like she has no problem. She's not interested in virtue signaling to the left, that she's not Nicole Wallace out there trying to, appease her leftist overlords. Like we don't have to always agree. Her thought process is always clear. She's never taking unnecessary shots at Republicans. She's always consistent about stuff. She's one of the freaking best.
She's a fantastic ambassador to Gen X in the sense that we grew up with other friends that had wildly different opinions, but we all partied and hung out together and had a good time. And we never let that stuff get in the way of our friendships.
Yeah, that used to be called normal, man.
Yeah, right. I know. And now you're either in one camp or the other camp. And I just think to myself, how boring and uninteresting is this? I mean, it's just the antithesis of individuality and creativity and all that stuff that like our generation embraced. So it's very strange. But
weren't there great debates we used to have with our friends about stuff? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like, man, it's all gone. It's all
sometimes we'd be pissed at each other. Sometimes it's kind of like, and then you just sort of, you're like, you're just doing this and you say, okay, agree to disagree. Let's go have a beer, because
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what? Hopefully Gen Y and Gen Z will look to Gen X and heed our advice and mimic our example and be more inclusive and open with everyone, real inclusivity.
Everyone should pick Gen X. We're the best.
I agree. We're going to save the world. Everyone, make sure and check out thepoliticalinsider.com and subscribe to our newsletter so you never miss any of our stories from our talented writers like Chris's new op-ed. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We're also on Rumble right now. Please like and share this video far and wide. Subscribe to The Political Insider on YouTube and subscribe to us on Rumble. So we're really focusing on Rumble because YouTube's doing all this crackdown, and we want to support sites like Rumble that encourage free speech. Anyway, until next time, keep the faith and stay frosty.